Hi, welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophie, your pilot into the universe of Chinese. We are going to continue our journey in discovering one new Chinese expression a day. Yesterday, we talked about 歪门邪道. 歪门邪道 is a Chinese way of saying like somebody who is supposedly taking a shortcut or take the path not ethically or morally or culturally encouraged. That somebody is going to go off the right path. Okay, so today we continue with 道 in 道听途说. And over here it's the pairing of 道 and the 途. They are, you see, contemporary Chinese, they share the same symbol. Now both of them related to walking, to traveling. 道 and the 途 are the same, like a conditional conditions to describe 听 and 说. So one is hear, one is say. So when we pair the two, it's paired this way. We have 道 and the 途 in the same dimension, but the 听 and 说 in another dimension. But when we're describing it, we pair them like that. And in my understanding, it's interchangeable. We semantically can say 无听到说, right? We can pair it differently because it's kind of interchangeable. Instead of like a 出生入死 in that phrase, like we can only exit life and enter death in one way trip. But over here, 听 and 说, it doesn't really matter. You hear it on the road or on your trip. In that case, in this case, it's the pair can be flipped, but because of expression are formed over time, enough people use it, so it become fixated. Fixated probably is not the right way to say it, but they become formalized, ossified, I guess that's the word, that we only say 道听途说 nowadays. Okay, so let's unpack. We have the 道. Came up with basically three symbols, and you can see two left and right structure, but the left can be separated further into top and bottom. You can see it's distinctively looking different, right? The bottom is a foot symbol that have this cactus-looking upward pointing toes, actually. And in abstraction of Chinese characters, oftentimes abstract a three-finger hand or three-toe foot. And here is the arch of the foot. So the whole thing is foot. Foot by itself, it actually means stop. You're standing still. But when it paired with the three strokes is the left side of the walking symbol. We has exactly mirroring image on the right side. So left foot, right foot pairing in this strokes, looking like that. That's an abstraction of footsteps. But eventually we just need one side and omit the other side. And so one foot symbol paired with footsteps, that means your foot actually is not standing still, actually making progress, traveling through distance. So that's our walking symbol. The right side is the head symbol. Okay, the head symbol made up with this structure with the hairs, okay, anti-gravity, upward flowing hairs. The center of the bottom symbol is the nose bridge, kind of look like this, right? And then two stacked horizontal lines, that is the nostrils placed like stacked up like that, because we want to save space. Chinese character, well, at least nowadays, we're horizontally laid out, but in ancient times, it actually is vertically. So I'm actually breaking my own theory of why we need to stack up to save horizontal space. If horizontal space is the way characters travel through page, we probably need to, in ancient times, it's vertically stacked up. So probably this is a later change when spatial-wise, horizontally, it becomes more expensive than vertical placement. Anyways, nostrils under the nose bridge, which is kind of a zoom out view of this center of the face. And we just use one center of the face spot to represent the whole face. We don't need to draw out all the residents on the face. And then a big circular, one stroke swing, kind of like a big circle, to say that's the head, the whole head. And then with this hairs, 3 of them going upward to symbolize the whole head. And actually that visual represent a head cut off during wartime. Pretty bloody scene, but that reflect the back when a language was created. That was the reality back then. So wartime, probably between tribes, was frequent, and this brutal practice of cutting off the enemy's head, that in like one of my theories of this is some higher up ranked enemy that's worth cutting off the whole head to prove that you actually capture somebody or you kill somebody more valuable than the ear cutting is average foot soldier. Okay, so the head symbol paired with walking, that means you're walking, you're traveling through life with your head still on your body. So consciously making choices and travel through life. We can do all kinds of interpretations of what that means. It means you taken a path somewhat guided, right, by your brain here. Like, but where this brain was got its own guidance, that's up to interpretation. But this is not an aimless random walk. This is walking with a purpose with your head. Okay, that's that. And English-speaking world may be familiar with the Tao, T-A-O, and that's a different spelling of the sound, the pronunciation, but it's talking about the same character. And the Tao, that means the way, right? It will become more abstract. And so here is the character, the way. Now let's talk about the Tu. Tu here, you see, well, the left side is a water sign. And indeed, the left side is water sign because somehow in the past, the dictionary of a particular, I think it's a 说文解字, it's particular kind of a dictionary to explain the language, the character origins, didn't include tu. So in the resources that I was checking on, they find a placeholder kind of showing the structure, but we can mentally replace this water sign with the walking sign. So it's something related to walking as well, but the right side, overall, the right side has many meanings. It means extra. It means the ancient rendering of that. What does that remind you? That looks like the head of a spear or something, right? It's pointy. It's a weaponry. We can almost see like that. And indeed, in ancient times, males, right, who were farm hands in peaceful times, like laborers, right? At wartime, they are often drafted, or I don't know what's the ancient, maybe they have different ways. Like, well, actually, I know that ancient China ruler not only have, the tax authority over people, like farmers, they pay by contributing their crops as a form of currency or tax. So instead of exchanging into currency, they hand in a percentage of the crops. And also the households were having the responsibility, according to the ruler, that they need to send their males in the family, probably in proportional to their household head counts to the war in time of wartime. So this farm hands, men converted to soldiers in wartime. And a lot of times their farm tools converted to weapons in wartime. So this is one of the cases that could be used on farming, but also used as weapon. And we have seen the character of 我 composed of two weaponry. So supposedly like both hands are weaponized. And then this 鱼, besides something means extra, it also eventually used mostly as a self-referral, talking about me or I. I think in text, oftentimes it's used as me, as a kind of humble, not a capitalized I as in English, but as me. And me came from this weaponry, like somebody who counts as a resource for the nation, either as a farming, labor, which is the #1 industry back then, or as the soldiers. So national defense and national economy both rely on people who can do this, and that's a self-referral. And the self-referral paired with walking sign, so mentally replace this water with walking, that is trip. So I translate it as trip. What's the difference with road? Okay, road could be the longer term, grand goal, kind of like mission, kind of like you find your path, right? That kind of thing. But a trip is from destination A to B, clearly defined within a short time window. And this we can regard it as me walking, like my trip, exactly like when you're booking your airline tickets, you have a A and a B. That's your trip. You made it personalized. It's yours. It's what you want to do. So we have this person, like me, self-referral, paired with walking. That's like my walk. That's my trip. That's a definition of trip. And we saw a similar use of adding the character me, but instead of a 鱼, because we have many self-referral characters, we use 我. That's also a self-referral paired with talking or speaking. So that means we have this speaking sign that basically means words, language. So it's a cultural thing, right? The whole culture shared words and language, like what we're talking about right now. But when it pairs with me, that means my words, my talking is personalized talking, and that change as 语. That means your verbal expression. So in a similar fashion, here's trip. And then 听 and 说 are the hear and say, the input and output of how we communicate mostly, right? And 听 came from, well, made up of 4 characters. You can see it's pretty complicated. The most recognizable, I guess, is here. This is the heart symbol. It's like a chamber, a pump, right? With input tube, output tube, and then the third tube to power itself. So that's a basic structure of heart. And then here is the ear. So I have an ear in listen, right? The organ who is in charge of listening. And here, the bottom left means act, means presence, and it made up of a human figure, which is kind of a crouching over there. But that's the ancient Chinese expression of, instead of having this straight-legged, symmetrical human figure, like the contemporary Chinese, ancient Chinese kind of having this, almost look like a English letter R. And this R sitting on top of soil symbol. Soil symbol because the first line is the ground level. The vertical line means something growing from the ground. And then the third line means indicating. It's the indicator. That's the main message. So look at here. It's below the ground level, at the very bottom of something growing. So that's the definition of soil. So somebody standing on top of soil. That's the definition of presence. I guess that's a kind of a cultural coding of a person, right? Like your presence is expected to be on top of soil. That's your position, right? All these are subtle subconscious message coming to you through language. Okay, and then the top here is number 10, and this is eyeball. This is before the eye stack up as the contemporary eye, but the two, like the eyeball, the iris border. In my cases, I have a black color shape, And so this is the border of the eyeball in there. And instead of drawing kind of in a circle, which was the original, more concrete, or more reflecting the physical reality, eventually things got abstracted. And so this curved line depicting the eyes and eyeball got abstracted into the slanted eye. But you can see this eye, 10 eyes. And here we have this bottom left corner stroke. A lot of times that means the ground. And just like in English, we say the ground truth. That means what's actually is there. It's not summarized, not abstract, not aggregated. It's looking at things as is. So then we have 10 eyeballs looking at things as is. That means honest, being truthful of what's true in there. So now we have 4 icons, the ears with presence, and then truth-seeking, and listen with heart. So that's the expectation, the cultural expectation of how you listen, how to be a good listener in Chinese culture. I find it very, still very relevant in today. Okay, sure. So here is the sound symbol, the speaking symbol that made up of the mouth symbol. And then we have this entering sign that's kind of a convex shape with a vertical line. It's kind of like a pointing, so something convex, and then almost look like this shape, right? And going downward, it's pointing toward the mouth. And then we have one horizontal line that's stylized into another concave, so it's kind of corresponding to the top concave shape. So here is an indicator. So that's the point. It's like, okay, we're actually talking about pointing inside the mouth, because in this concave plus vertical sign, that means entering. That means from your current space, which is this convex shape, and with this pointy thing, using that pointy thing as the entering. And so this pointy thing pointed at the mouth, and then with the indicator placed over there, that means it's entering the mouth, something inside the mouth. That's the location we're talking about. And just by deduction, we know it's the tongue we're talking about, because it's not visibly shown to the outside, right? The visual. So we can only plus the mouth, and with this entering sign pointed, like that's the inside of the mouth, we can come up with the conclusions of tongue. So tongue with 2 horizontal lines, one is longer than the next one. That's sound bits or sound bites, right? Sound bites. And so we have the organ to speak, and we have the result to speak. Both combined define the act of speaking. And when we have the right side, that means here is a person symbol. So now personalized, right? And then especially emphasize the mouth symbol. So it's like, no mistake, it's about a human say. And then we have this, what do you call this? I forgot the mathematical term to show the shape. It means the air from you kind of floating, distributed outward. So that's the expectation of human speaking or pronunciation in ancient times, that you're not supposed to make a screechy, focused, high-pitched sound. You're supposed to speak with your airflow going out, like outward, distributed, not sharp. It's like evenly, even-toned maybe. So that's the expectation of your human say. So human speaking together, say. I guess we can kind of have a call back to the trip. It's like personalized walking. This is personalized, and with the speaking standard, the pronunciation standard included of speaking. So there we go. That's 说. So 道听途说 together. If we remove 道 and 听, that's conditional. Like what's the sources of your information? It's on your journey, life's journey, or on your particular trip, right? Eventually people don't distinguish the Dao and the Tu. And only because I'm doing this program, I have to check the dictionary and find out, oh, probably that's the distinction. But in contemporary Chinese, we don't really, they are both about walking. And who bothered to check what's their difference? But now we know this is a personalized trip, right? So regardless where you get the source of information, we have a hear and a say, and English happily, or I should say serendipitously, have the exact same thing. It's like you hear say. It's not firsthand information. It's somebody say something to you. And you as a listener, the receiver of the information, actually have your own judgment or obligation to check out the truth. But a lot of times we didn't check out, right? So it becomes like a human phenomenon, societal phenomenon, which is kind of about gossip. Somebody saying something, which a lot of the time could be misinformation about somebody or some place, right? Or some event. And then we take it and pass the information. And along the way, it could be we add into our creative details, almost like our own narration about something. And that's hearsay in English. And this is how Chinese say it. 道听途说. Okay, cash into the currency of thinking by one word a day with Sophie. See you another day.